Allama Yafi'i, the great scholar, master, relates in his work Rawd al-Rayyahin fi Hikayat al-Salihin, in his book, a very beautiful story. He relates that the King Harun Rashid had a son, and this son of his was 16 years of age. I want you to listen very carefully to this story, because what I see before me here today is that the majority of the people that are listening to this reminder and are participating in this blessed gathering are older than 16. So the majority of you here today were older than this child. 16 years of age, and he narrates, وَقَدْ كَانَ وَافَكَ الْعُبَّادِ وَالزُّهَّادِ, that this child, though he was a prince, the son of the King Harun Rashid, but he would sit in the company of the ulama, not before the internet. He would sit in the company of the ulama, just like Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was educated by the Almighty Allah. The Sahaba were educated by Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The Tabi'een that came after were educated by the Sahaba. The Atba'u Tabi'een thereafter were educated by the Tabi'een. Unlike this, we have received this blessed knowledge. So he would sit in the company of the ulama, and he would sit in the company of the awliya, the pious. And time after time, just like Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, زُورُوهَا فَإِنَّهَا تُذَكِّرُكُمُ الْآخِرَةِ, visit the graves, as by visiting them, they will remind you of the hereafter, they will remind you of the akhirah. He would go and visit the graveyard. One day he comes to his father, who is sitting with his ministers and courtiers, and the child's wearing a jubba, a garment of coarse cloth, and on his head is a turban, an amama, also of thick cloth. The courtiers and the ministers, seeing this child in this condition, they begin to murmur and say, لَقَدْ فَضَحَ هَذَا الْوَلَدُ أَمِيرَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ بَيْنَ الْمُلُوكِ, that this child, he's degraded the Amir al-Mu'mineen, the king, in the eyes of other kings. Look at the way he dresses and behaves. فَلَوْ أَعْتَبَهُ لَعَلَّهُ يَرْجِعُ عَمَّهُ عَلَيْهِ. If the king was to reproach him and tell him off, maybe this child wouldn't dress in this manner. He's a prince. He has to his disposal the luxuries of the world. The King Harun Rashid calls his son, and he speaks to him with regards to this. Yo, son, you've degraded me in the eyes of other kings because of the way you dress, act and behave. The child, out of respect for his father, does not answer back. He does not respond. There is a wild bird sitting nearby. He addresses that bird, بِحَقِّ الَّذِي خَلَقَكَ إِلَّا جِئْتَ عَلَى يَدَيَّ. I ask you in the name of the one that has created you, come and perch on my hand. And the bird comes and perches on his hand. And then he says, I ask you in the name of the one that has created you, go back from where you came. And the bird returns. He addresses the bird for a second time, and this time he says, I ask you in the name of the one that has created you, come and sit on the hands of the Amir al-Mu'mineen. And the bird does not respond. He turns around to his father and says, Wabba, لَقَدْ فَضَحْتَنِي بِحُبَّكَ الدُّنْيَا. Oh Abba, it is you that has made me hang my head in shame because of your love for this world. And I made firm intentions to leave you. And the child leaves the king. And the only thing that this child takes with him is the Quran. And as he's leaving, his mother gives him a ring, a precious ring, so that if the need ever arises, he could use this ring, sell it, and buy some food or clothes or whatever. And he made his way to Basra, and he worked with the builders and laborers. Abu Amir al-Basri relates that one of the walls of my house had collapsed, and I went in search for somebody to build this wall. I came across this child, so handsome that my eyes had never seen a child so beautiful. And he's sitting down. He has the book of Allah before him, and he's reciting the Quran. I asked the child, will you work? He says, وَلِمَا لَا أَعْمَلْ وَلِلْعَمَلْ خُلِقْ. And why should I not work? I've been created to work. I'm here because I want to work. But Chacha, before you ask me to work, I have two conditions. Condition number one is, whatever the work may be, whether it's a little or whether it's a lot, you will pay me bidirham wa danik, you will pay me 1 dirham, and you will pay me, a danik is a sixth of a dirham. This child lived on the 7 days in a week, so he lived on 1/6 of a dirham a day. 1 dirham and 1 danik adds to a few pennies. This is my first condition. And my second condition is, وَأُصَلِّي صَلَاتِي. Irrespective of anything, when the muazzin calls for prayer, then I will leave my work. No matter what position I've got, no matter how big of a job it may be, no matter how many dollars it may pay, when the muazzin calls for prayer, I will leave my work and I will offer my prayer. Abu Amir al-Basri agreed, and the child begins to work. All day he's working. Abu Amir al-Basri says, I come in the evening just to see how much work this child's done and to pay him. And I realize that this child alone has done the work of 10 men. Astounded, gobsmacked. But at the same time, I'm so happy that he's done so much work. And instead of the 1 dirham and 1 danik, I decide to give him 2. And he says, oh uncle, oh chacha, do you remember my condition? Only 1 dirham, 1 danik. What am I going to do with this extra dirham? And the child left. Next day, Abu Amir al-Basri says, I went to the market again to look for this child. And I was informed that this child only works on a Saturday. And that now I will not find him till next Saturday. If I come to the market, I will find him in exactly the same place. He says, because he had done so much work for so less, I stopped the construction for 1 week. And I waited for the following Saturday. So when the Saturday comes, I will find him and I will ask him to do the work. Come the following Saturday, Abu Amir says, he's sitting in exactly the same place and he's reciting the Quran. Again I ask him for work. Again he puts the same conditions. 1 dirham, 1 danik, and at the time of salah, I will offer my prayer. He says, I agreed. But this time, I hid. I hid in a place from where the child could not see me, because I wanted to see, how is this child of 16 able to do so much work, the work of 10 men? He says the child is working, he's putting on the mixture, the cement. And this is what I'm seeing, that the bricks are coming up one by one by themselves, and the bricks are arranging themselves in line. He says, هَكَذَا أَوْلِيَاءُ اللَّهِ مُعَانُونَ. That is the time when I realized that this child is no ordinary child. He is definitely a friend of Allah, because only the friends of Allah are helped by the Almighty Allah and are helped by powers of the unseen in this manner. So if this